What's up, you guys? It's Ziggy Pal here, coming at you guys with my DDD deck profile, and it's been pretty highly requested. And I'm just gonna say before we get into the video that if you guys don't want to see the in-depth video, just go into the description box below, and there will be a full deck list there for you guys. But if you guys actually want to sit around and hear the whole in-depth, I'm gonna go over the deck and like some of the card choices. And if there's any other questions you don't, or I haven't answered for you that you actually have, just let me know in the comment section below, and I can definitely answer them for you because I don't want the video to be too long. So without further ado, let's get into my DDD deck. And first off, actually, before we get into it, I like to say, I know, like, I'm pretty sure you guys are wondering why, like, how I get these boards so consistently. So here it is. Like, this is the deck, and this is the reasons why I have everything. So we have one DDD Judgment King Armageddon. You don't really summon him that much. He's just like there as like a level 8, and he is something that's really easy to summon off of your Armageddon, or sorry, your Ragnarok. If you do summon the Ragnarok, and you have this guy engraved. And then that brings us to our next card, triple DDD Oblivion King Ragnarok. He's basically one of your starter cards. You always want to see him on turn 1 because he just extends your combos so much better. And then we run 2 DD Savant Thomas, because Thomas is actually, I'd say it's one of the best DD monsters. And it actually, like, it's a good top deck late game. 3 is much too cloggy, but 2 is perfect because the first one will like get its effect to make an 8, and then if you top deck another one, then you can get a scale back and make another pendulum play potentially later in the duel. And then that also brings us to DD Savant Newton. If I can even get the picture here. So we have DD Savant Newton. Newton's a decent top deck late game because it can get you back a contract from grave. And that's basically what he's here for. But in this deck, I run a lot of cards that basically are blank because I just want to see my standard combo cards at the like, I don't really want to see anything else but my standard combo cards. And like, this deck is very hard to find room for other stuff without clogging too much on other things. So I just decided to put Newton here as a top deck late game. And he's always a side-out card, so you can kind of think of him as a blank card, and if you do draw him, you usually will banish him for like an allure or something, or like, it doesn't really matter. But he is a really good late-game top deck. And then you have 2 DD Savant Copernicus. Copernicus is kind of bad, in my honest opinion. Like, the boards you usually will make with him are much weaker to max C. And he can kind of clog your hand because he's not as inherently good as other combos in the deck, like the combos you use with him. Like, it really isn't. But he's not like the worst DDD, and you need some DDDs in here. But if you run like Birth and stuff, then like you're running all these monsters that have this condition that you can only summon DDDs, so you can't make these awesome boss monsters that you want to actually be able to make. So I only ran him at 2, and honestly, the second one is kind of a side out card. You don't really need 2. Like, 1 is fine. It's more than enough. He's just there to be a DDD card and just to like be able to search and like potentially like banish because he's a dark monster. You can banish him with the allure. And then we're running triple Kepler. DD Savant Kepler, because Kepler is basically another starter card, like your Ragnarok. And Kepler gets you to your contracts, which gets you like more fusions and clutch plays, or just basically any other DD monster in your deck. And then 3 DD Swirl Slime. Swirl Slime is basically another starter card, and he's like in my opinion, I think he's my favorite, but I think he actually is the best DDD because he starts off so many combos, and he gets like you to summon monsters from your hand to trigger more reborn effects. Because this whole entire deck is just like a monster reborn, like it's like a soul charge. And then you have DD Necro Slime, 3 of them. You run triple Necro Slime because he's also kind of a starter card. Not so much important as like some of your other starters, but he is like really good at making that like other fusion at the very end of your play. So you can either go for game or make an Exceed or make a synchro play that you're trying to make. So like Swirl Slime is a very good card. And then we're running triple Lamia because I think, honestly, you guys, you only really need 2 Lamia. But like I said, I just want more blank cards and more access to get my combo cards. So like, you barely will clog on multiple Lamias because you run stuff like Allure and you run like draw power to get to cards like Allure and to like just get into other combo cards, and the chances of you always like opening multiple Lamias aren't very high. But I always use the third one as a side out card because I just want in game 1 to be as consistent to get through my combo pieces as possible. That's why I run multiples of certain cards, and like because you can just allure them away and it doesn't matter. So that's another reason why I'm running triple Lamia. You usually will side it out though, and I think you guys should play the triple Lamia because you absolutely do need to get to it. And then I do play 1 glow bulb. It's basically like a tech. There's very few cards in this deck that I would actually consider a tech. And if you change this deck in any way, you're gonna like kind of mess up the mojo it has with itself. It is the most consistent build I've played to actually put out big boards. If that's not your goal, this might not be the deck for you. But if you just want to play for combos and make huge boards, this is definitely the build for you. and you should definitely try this out. And so global is basically a tech, but it's not bad, and it works with some of your other spell cards. And then you have triple contract with the gate, self-explanatory. It's a searcher, it's a rota for all your deities. And then you have one dark contract with the Swamp King. Swamp King is really good because it's a clutch late game play. Like if you, and it's like a backup in case you didn't get to like a swirl slime or you didn't get to a necro slime. And if you have this and you don't have one or the other, you always go for swirl slime, and then the Swamp King basically replaces your necro slime. That's basically how you use this card, and it's also like an amazing late game top deck. It's really, really good. And then for my blank cards and my draw cards, I'm playing one upstart because it's limited and you would want to play 3 if you could, so you play max of this. And then I'm playing triple into the void here. My theory behind this is if you just draw like as much, like if you make as much blank cards in your deck as you can, like it's like the theme of the deck and you're gonna keep hearing that, but you make as much blank cards and you just draw until you get to your combo pieces. This deck literally will put its entire, like, it'll put everything on board in this form of like a huge, like nearly unbreakable board outside of like kaijus and stuff. So like into the void, like, it doesn't matter because all your cards are going to go into the field, even if you draw traps. Like that's the reason why you don't play like a lot of other like weird like hand traps or janky spells in the main deck. You just side those things, and then it's like Into the Void's also another really good side out card. Like it's 3 free cards you can just side out and going second game 2 or game 3, and then you have a 2 Allure of Darkness because, you know, it's a filter, and it's somewhat another blank card, and you run so many multiples of all your combo cards. Like you don't need 3 Kepler, you don't need 3 Swirl Slime, you don't need 3 Necro Slime, you don't need 3 Lamia, but if you draw multiples in an Allure, it gets you deeper into your deck and you still have your combo cards. And then you have your kind of, to me, it's kind of like the holy trinity of this deck. It's like one ofs. It's your Where Art Thou, your Foolish Burial, and your 1-for-1. And the reason why I say these cards are really good is because they're also like deck thinning cards, and they're just basically like essentially kind of like a blank card, because they tutor for all your good cards that you need. So you'd rather just have them as one card ways to just tutor out the same combo you would need if you didn't draw a specific card. Like if you open with Lamia and you need like a Kepler, you can just summon the Lamia and then use the Where Art Thou to, you know, get the Kepler, and then that way you can Swirl Slime the Kepler away, and then Ragnarok will get back the Kepler, and you can make plays like that. You see what I'm saying? Like it just tutors out all your other stuff. Same thing for Foolish Burial. Puts your clutch cards in the grave. Anything you need in grave, it'll send it there. And 1-for-1 also basically summons any of your level 1s. That can be a Lamia that you need, a Kepler. This is really good because it gets you other cards, Necro Slime, or even a Glow Up Bulb itself. And then I decided to run traps in the deck. I ran 3 Solemn Strikes, 1 Solemn Warning, 1 Vanity's Emptiness. And there's a reason why we're playing Vanities, and I'll explain that later. But first, I'm going to actually explain why I'm playing these traps. There's basically nothing that I found that's actually, in my honest opinion, better when you're like thinking in the terms of like using Into the Voids and you're trying to go first to make a big board, that you could play in these 5 slots other than these traps. And the reason is because these are some of the strongest traps in the game currently. They pretty much are like the actual like strongest like one-off, like, or like not one-off, but like, well, I mean, Solemn and Vanities are the 2 strongest one-off traps in the game, and then like Solemn Strike is like probably arguably like one of the strongest traps in the game right now as well. And so like, if you don't draw into any of your monsters you see in this deck or any of the spells in here, because the spells basically just get you to your standard combo cards, then you would rather just draw traps to slow your opponent down, because there's nothing else that you could run that would make the deck more consistent other than running multiples of the cards you already have. They're at 1, like Where Art Thou, for instance, or like more of your deities, when those things can clog your deck. So you'd rather just like run like an efficient amount of all of those cards like you see here, and then only run, okay, and then sorry about that, you guys, and then people are blowing up my phone. So you would honestly only want to run like the cards you see here that are very efficient, and then you can play the traps as like a backup in case you didn't draw like every single card you needed. So whatever boss monster you end up being able to put out, your traps can basically slow your opponent down. And Vanities, like I said, is actually a key reason why we're playing Vanities, and you guys are probably gonna really like it. And so for the extra deck, we're playing 1 DDD, Wave of Oblivion King Caesar Ragnarok. He's actually there for Cosmos, and he's also a big beater that can be very clutch with the Swamp King to like go for game. And then you have 1 DDD Cruel Dragon King Beowulf. Beowulf is basically there for rank 8s, but he does give your DDDs piercing damage, and he is like there. He can go for game because he has 3,000 beaters, so he's pretty good. And then you have 1 DDD Oracle King D-Arc. D-Arc is basically not needed in this deck, except for like the only times you ever will summon a D-Arc is when you need a 7 to be able to synchro for a Siegfried, because sometimes that actually comes up where you do have your level 8 synchro and your level 8 sorry, rank 8, but you also have the ability to make another level 8 synchro, and you do have another fusion, so you can make a D-Arc, and you usually will use D-Arc and Lamia to make the Siegfried. And then, and other than that, it's really not that important. Unless like you brick and you have like a way to make like a Titanic Galaxy in this with some back row or something like that, because sometimes when you get a bad hand, that's like kind of what you can sometimes pull off of a bad hand, like literally, or you can have like a Siegfried plus like a bunch of back row, usually because you can make this. So it is what it is. And then 2 DDD Blaze King Genghis, because he's actually the best guy, because besides Alexander, he's the only one with a Monster Reborn effect. And that makes him really, really good. And he's usually the first guy you always go into to start all your like retarded combos that just make huge boards. And the reason why you play 2 is because unlike the other guys, you actually will need a second Genghis, because the other guys are more situational, where you always will use the first Genghis, but the second Genghis comes up in like a very common situation where you'll have a Titanic Galaxy, you'll have a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, and you have a Formula Synchron. And then you'll have a Genghis engrave and a necro engrave, and you banish those 2 for another Genghis, and then synchro with the Formula Synchron and the second Genghis to make your Siegfried. And so that's why the second Genghis is there. It's actually really, really important. And then now you also, for the synchros, for the DDD synchros, you play 1 Alexander, DDD Gale King Alexander. And he's basically another Monster Reborn effect, and he helps you synchro climb into other synchros, basically your boss monsters. And then you have, for your first boss monster, DDD Curse King Siegfried. He's so good. He's basically a Xian, and he doesn't destroy the card. He just negates the effect until the next standby phase, which means if your opponent activates Cosmotown or Fire King Island, you can target it, and it doesn't destroy it, it doesn't trigger anything, and it just negates it for the turn, so they can't use it. But the real reason why I really like him is because he just like is an extra negate for like any Regeki or something that can be a threat to your Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. And so if you couple him with a Titanic Galaxy and a Crystal Wing, that's a really strong board. And outside of Kaijus, it's really, really hard to break that board. And also, he's the reason why I'm playing Vanitys Emptiness, because let's say hypothetically, like your opponent, it's their turn, and you flip vanities when they try to do something, and they just like die to the vanity basically, and they go back to your turn. If you have a combo on your turn, you can use the Siegfried to negate your own vanity's emptiness, and then it'll just sit there for the whole turn, and you can combo. And then when it goes back to your opponent's turn on their standby phase, the vanities will turn back on, because Siegfried will no longer be negating the vanities. And so basically, it's like having a trap stun vanities combo, but like Siegfried just does it on his own while being a Sheen at the same time. So he's actually kind of broken. And then, and that's actually a really cheeky way to like steal games. And then for the Xseed, we just play the DDD Dual Don King Kali Yuga, because he's actually really, really good at clearing back row. He's like a heavy storm, but at the same time, his when you actually summon him, his effect on summon is actually really good against Cosmos. His effect is all other cards and effects on the field cannot be negated, and their effects are, they cannot be activated, and their effects are negated for the rest of the turn. So what that means is like if you have like a make Kali Yuga, negate everything, you can blow up the back row and then attack over a Dart Destroyer. It floats, and if it floats into anything, that's effects negated. And so if you like attack with like a Crystal Wing over like a Forerunner, and that thing floats out into like a Landwalker, you can attack over that thing. And if that thing floats into like a Wicked Witch, the Wicked Witch, it cannot activate its effect, because its effects cannot be activated while it's in the field, and its effects are negated, so it cannot protect itself, and it cannot banish itself to summon a ship. So basically, any pilot they summon, you just clear it. So it helps you just clear a Cosmo board without having to worry, like, yeah, you have to deal with the floating, but like you don't have to worry about them floating into like a pilot and then tagging out. Like, it just stops that, which is amazing, because then you can put all their pilots in grave, and then they have to like make a recovery play with cards that they have in their hand. So if you're already hitting an established board with this, you're usually winning after that, like, honestly. And then you have the for the non-DD extra deck cards, you have Formula Synchron, you have a Hyper Librarian, and Odd Eyes Meteor Burst. And the reason why I want to talk about them real quick is because they basically help you when you have plays that are kind of awkward. Formula Synchron, not so much, because it just always comes up and it gets you with a free draw that's really easy to make. But Hyper Librarian only comes up when you have a play that you have to make with Copernicus, and Hyper Librarian basically makes the plays better. And that's why, and that alone is why Copernicus is kind of bad, because it leaves you way more open to Maxi than any of your other plays. Like, I mean, Maxi just kills the deck anyway, but like, it's really bad. That's why I really hate Copernicus. But it's actually not that bad. And Odd Meteor Burst gets back your Ragnarok from the scale, and then the Ragnarok can trigger when it's summoned to get something back from grave. And why that's and one cool thing to note is if you do make a Copernicus play, it's not impossible. And if you guys watch my most recent live duel video of this deck, you can actually make a Formula Synchron and a Hyper Librarian with a Copernicus play, and then synchro them into a Meteor Burst to get back to Ragnarok to do something to get a bigger board, and it actually works out really well. And then for the rest of the cards, we have one Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. That's basically our boss monster going first, and then a Trishula for like basically going second or a late game in game 1 situation, even if you're going first and the late game comes up, because it gets rid of really hard to get rid of cards, and so Trishula is one of the best options there. And also, it's really easy to make Trishula. All you need is a Genghis, a Lamia, and a Swirl Slime. And it's actually pretty easy if you have Ragnarok in the scale. And then for the last 2 cards, we're playing, first of all, let's talk about Titanic Galaxy. He's actually a really good boss monster. And one cool thing to note about him is if you have multiple contract with the gate, or like a Swamp King that you just don't need or something, and you don't want to take the 1,000 life, like you have like let's say you have like now all of a sudden 800 like life left, right? You have Titanic Galaxy, and you're going to burn to death with this. You can actually use this effect on the standby phase when the card goes to burn your life, and you can absorb it with the Titanic Galaxy. You don't burn life, and you get more, you get more material under Titanic Galaxy. So that's actually really good. And then the last card is Sylvan Princess Sprite, which is actually super clutch, and it comes up so often, and like maybe 1 to every 3 out of 10 games, somewhere around there, it actually comes up. And what happens is sometimes you absolutely will not be able to get to your Lamia, and when that happens, you can make plays where you'll have like a Genghis and you'll get back a Necro Slime, and you overlay a Kepler and a Necro Slime into this thing, and this thing can get you your Lamia engrave. It can get you any good clutch card engrave, and it can get you any good spell to help you get to more plays, and it can also get you traps to back up whatever play you can make at the time. So it does definitely come up, and you guys should definitely just play the Princess Sprite. It's not out yet, but a lot of this deck isn't even out yet. So as soon as it comes out, I'm pretty sure we'll all be playing this card. And that's basically the deck profile, guys. Thank you guys very much for watching, and for all the support you guys have given me for this deck. Like I said, if there's anything you guys need to know more in detail, just leave in the comment section below. I can definitely help you guys out. And let me know, if you guys want to see more duels with this deck. Like, please let me know. Like, I guess in the comment section, if you guys actually want to see more duels with this deck, I really would like it if you guys would just like let me know, because I really want to play this deck, but I don't want to overcrowd you guys or like overdo the whole DDD thing. Even though it's like one of my favorite decks, and I'll just always play it. Like Shadal's was one of my favorite decks forever, but then when I started playing around with this deck, and then I realized all these new support cards like in OCG and all this stuff, it just became solely my favorite deck because of what it represents and just the overall how fun the combos are to play. So thank you guys very much for watching, and take care until next time.